Hello everybody. I think we've got some people coming into the room. Mary, can we see who's coming in? Can we get a list?
Yeah, so if you click on your participants and then go to attendees.
Coming in, yeah, okay. Great, welcome everybody. We're just going to give some time for all the attendees to join the call. So we're up to 39 people at this stage. There's more coming in. So hope everybody's keeping well and safe. It's strange times for everyone in every sector. So it's also a good time to do a bit of learning and a bit of some new things. So this webinar program is part of that, and we've had very, very strong attendance for the last week on it, and we're very excited today to have a brilliant presentation on retail strategies. So we're just coming in now. We've got 44, so there's a few more coming in. So so with that, I'm going to introduce our speaker. Eddie Shanahan is obviously an expert in retail and in design and product development and fashion. But we've been very lucky to have Eddie on our board now for 3 years, actually, on the DCCI board. He's been had a great value in that time, and hopefully we'll have him on the board for some time to come. But Eddie's kindly put this presentation together for the DCCI client base as part of the webinar series, and it's on retail strategies for makers and designers. So without further ado, I'll just introduce Eddie. You won't see his picture, but you will hear his voice, and then we'll come at the end for a Q&A. So if you have questions, you can type them as we go through. We will compile them all, and we'll do all the questions at the end, if that's okay. So listen, enjoy everybody. Thanks very much, and we'll talk at the end of the session. Eddie.
Thanks, Brian, and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you and your families are all safe and well. Thank you for joining us at DCCI today, and a special thank you to Brian and Emer and Mary for all their help in making this webinar possible. Retailing is a big subject. So in today's short webinar, I will focus on some of the key strategies and considerations, whether we wish to retail directly to consumers, to do so through third-party stores, or both. As designers and makers, we have several options. But one thing the recent disruption has taught us is the importance of selling online, of having our own independent route to consumers. Apart from selling our collections through our own online stores, other options include selling in local markets, organizing pop-up opportunities with fellow makers, retailers, or corporate partners, running classes or studio experience, including commissions, wholesaling or selling our collections through third-party retailers, whether online or in bricks and mortar stores. Whatever our choice or combination of choices, I believe we should heed the advice of the late KARL. The key word of our profession is desire. You have to create desire. We need to recognize too that the consumer is now the point of purchase. Consumers now carry a variety of shops in their pockets. The market is not just national, but international. And there are no excuses, no allowances, only competition. The best we can is judged against the best there is. Consumers are promiscuous in their shopping choices. For them, shopping is a multi-channel activity, a convergence of classic formats and new media. They research online and buy in store, research in store and buy online, click and collect, order online for direct delivery, navigate in store on mobile. According to a recent PwC retail report, 54% of Irish consumers shop in store daily or weekly. 21% shop on PC, 20% on smartphone, and 13% on tablet. Shopping on smartphones has doubled amongst Irish consumers between 2018 and 2019. This increase will continue apace, so it's essential to optimize our websites for mobile. Remember though, the web offers no easy answers. It merely offers virtual real estate. A shop is a shop, online or off, with the challenge of engaging and converting consumers who move on at what one might best describe as the ever-increasing speed of boredom. 67% of Irish consumers shop on Amazon, and Amazon is now opening physical stores across categories: food, books, fashion. Why? To leverage a wider experience for consumers and the conversion offered through convergence, through the channels coming together. And after all, how do you smell Chanel No. 5 online? Once upon a time, retailing was about the right product in the right place, at the right time, and the right price, with the right promotion. Nowadays, when experience and impact are opposite sides of the same coin, this statement merely forms the basis for a much more expansive proposition. Now we must add innovation, imagination, service, environment, emotion, and seduction to the mix. Innovation, imagination, service, environment, emotion, and seduction are the customer-facing issues that drive conversion, turning maybe into must-have. And so retail is changing from product to productions. Consumers are demanding a new engagement, one that is service-driven and information-rich, helping them to realize a sustainable ambition to buy less by buying better. This sustainable ambition to buy better is a real opportunity for makers and designers of quality products, especially when we consider that 66% of Irish people are prepared to buy Irish products in order to support the Irish economy. And my guess is that this figure will rise considerably as we emerge from the current crisis. If people are buying less product, then they're likely to have more disposable income to spend on experiences like studio visits and making classes. So we should think of retail today as a multi-channel experience and a multi-channel opportunity. One of the most inspirational and aspirational examples of retail experience has to be La Samaritaine, the long-dormant Parisian institution, shortly about to rise well beyond its former glory, to be more than just a store. La Samaritaine will be multiple shopping galleries, 12 dining options, a customization service, a VIP salon, beauty treatment rooms, a spa, a nursery, apartments, commercial offices, and a boutique hotel. La Samaritaine will be an experience where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We can and should take inspiration from new format stores like La Samaritaine or Galerie Lafayette or Icicle or New. But how do we deliver retail success at our own level? We do it first and foremost through a relentless focus on the consumer. That relentless focus identifies opportunities to solve consumers' problems, to offer them a point of difference, to enhance their lifestyles, shape their service experience, and improve their everyday. This focus on the consumer is the start of the marketing process. Marketing is not merely about being fast-fingered on Facebook. Marketing is the process through which goods or services move from concept to consumer. Marketing evolves across 4 distinct phases: research and development, pricing strategy, distribution strategy, selecting the most appropriate route to market based on price and margin requirements, and finally, promotion strategy. There are several elements in developing a strong retail presence in today's marketplace. Strong retail brands are distinctive. What's your point of difference? Strong retail brands are consistent. Consistency is the basis for trust. How consistent is your brand, your offer, your service? Strong retail brands offer an identity value. That is the way they allow consumers to say something positive about themselves. If I buy your brand, what positive value or credit does that bestow on me? Strong retail brands are backed by a strong service ethos. Would you consider training retail staff to be your brand ambassadors, to competently advise on your collection, its uses, its quality, its care, and its unique backstory? All these attributes come together at the interface with consumers in a retail environment that should invite consumers to respond to a welcoming, engaging customer journey, driven by strong merchandising, accented by hotspots and highlights, and expanded through ancillary services like Meet the Maker Days, repair centers, click and collect, gift vouchers, coffee stations, and so on. Do you consider the retail environment as part of your promotional plan? How your brand is to be displayed in store? Do you advise your retailers? And do you replicate this online? All of these secrets of success add up to that important word, experience. As they say at Harley-Davidson, the secret to our enduring brand lies in delivering an experience rather than just a collection of products or services. Is this all a little overwhelming? Not if we take the advice of Michael Eisner, the former chief executive of Disney. Brands, he said, are developed for better or worse, cumulatively over time, and are the product of 1,000 small gestures. 1,000 small gestures, some staff training, gift wrapping, care instructions, a vase of flowers in a shop, studio, or showroom, tips on use, telling the story. 1,000 small gestures. Are you making your share? And what do your customers think? You know what Amazon founder Jeff Bezos says about branding? Branding, he says, is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. What do customers say about your brand, about your retail efforts, when you're not in the room? Brands are tribes. This is an important consideration for retailers. Brands are customer-focused. They share common values and culture with their customers. They are responsive to the lifestyle needs, wants, and challenges of their tribe. They are not for everyone. So it's important to know your core customer. You cannot be all things to all people, but by all means, sell up or sell down the secondary markets. And that brings me to what I call doing purpose. Ask yourself this important question. My shop or my collection enables who to do what? How easily, how engagingly, how memorably, and with what identity value? Do purpose so your customers understand exactly what you're about. Don't cloak it all in mystery and long diatribes. Let me give you some examples. Do purpose like Nike. Nike helps people run. Do purpose like Goldie Rocks, the music store in Cork. The sign in the window simply says, help for musicians. If we want to be successful retailers, or to create collections that will resonate with professional retail buyers, then it's important to recognize that there's an emotional and a rational reason behind every sale. Emotion is the heavyweight in this relationship. Customers don't just buy products or services. They buy fulfillment. They buy memories, not cameras. They buy health and wellness, not vitamins. They buy quality of life, not houses. Touch the heart in your product development and in your retail operations, online or off. Emotion is a valuable ingredient. What can we do now? They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So what we should do as makers, wholesalers, retailers in the economic vacuum right now? What should we do? We should audit our online presence, check that our websites are easily navigated, that they work across the technologies, especially smartphones. We should sensitively promote online sales and build partnerships with Irish online retailers. We should create compelling content, including visuals and Vimeos, and tell stories about our products and processes across all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, to add value and to drive consumers to our points of sale. As Irish consumers express increasing preferences for Irish, local, and sustainable products, we can promote these attributes and confidently accent them with stories about authenticity, craftsmanship, and quality. This will help secure valuable front-of-mind space for Irish designers and makers when the current restrictions ease. We can buddy up and cross-promote with complementary non-compete makers on social media. We can make the time we could never make before to prototype and develop new products, open our archives, and rediscover our bestsellers. Bestsellers echo the approval of happy customers. We can follow the holistic approach of the beauty business to range development. You know the formula: cleanse, tone, moisturize. Not only good for skin, but good for increased average unit sales and average transaction values too. Cleanse, tone, moisturize. Cup, saucer, plate, ring, bracelet, earrings, bag, purse, shopping tote, birthday card, gift tag, wrapping paper, sofa, chair, stool, glasses, decanter, water jug. The power of three is about creating solutions through suites of products, about thinking like customers, selling a lifestyle, creating desire. If you're a retailer, you will see the value in it. If you sell to retailers, they will see the value in you. The power of three also forms the basis for conversational upselling and wider product knowledge. So develop your staff training program now while you have the time. Why do designers and makers always want to be the cheapest? Why should your work be sold to the lowest bidder? Know your worth. Know that your craftsmanship adds value. On the Hermes catalogue here, they show one of their artisans on the cover to emphasize craftsmanship as a core part of the DNA of one of the world's leading brands. If you respect yourself and your work, price need never be your starting point, but value must always be your end point. Value is not about price alone. Value is a combination of quality, design, craftsmanship, innovation, the problem addressed, the solution offered, and the price. People will pay for value. So when it comes to pricing, there are several important considerations. First and foremost, you must make a profit to survive. Then you must consider whether you're a low-cost brand or a differentiator, whether you just sell basics or your offer is special and enriching, whether your collection is purely about form, or is it about form and function and emotion, and whether your offer adds value through limited editions, collectibles, gifts, and the stories you tell. As a wholesaler, you will need to consider third-party retail margins too. Products sold in at a net price of €10 will retail at around €24, a multiple of 2.4 for home, and €28, a multiple of 2.8 for fashion and accessories. I keep saying it, don't I? That telling stories adds value. The image on this slide is a case in point. If I just told you that the scarf pictured here was priced at €275, you would probably think back to far cheaper prices you'd seen in some chain store or other. But if I told you that this scarf was designed by Pucci and printed on the finest silk, woven at the Antico Certifico Fiorentino on looms designed by Leonardo da Vinci, a very different value comes to mind. You see, telling stories really can make a difference. So what's your story? We're all wondering what the future holds for retail after the current disruption and how we might respond. I believe there'll be a realignment of values and more curatorial, selective consumers. There'll be an increase in online shopping, as many people will have used the facility for the first time during the shutdown. Auditing and developing your web presence will be to your advantage in this regard, ensuring navigation is easy and content is impressive. Traditional retailers, including makers selling from their studios, can fight back against the online challenge by creating a better in-store experience that may be impossible to replicate online. They may generate opportunities for Meet the Maker Days and other in-store demos and events. I know from working on the Create project at Brown Thomas that visiting makers always sell more than sales staff when they're on the shop floor. There's likely to be heavy discounting too due to overstocks, making it difficult to hold margin unless we're offering a worthwhile point of difference. What will your worthwhile point of difference be? Retailers will have restricted open to buy accounts and are likely to place smaller orders for the foreseeable future. Quick replenishment capability will be vital, therefore, for both makers and retailers in this scenario. We must make sure we're ready. Retailers won't have much money to invest in promotional activity, but makers could provide an answer with demos, advice, gifts with purchase, and other in-store events. Limited editions, innovative gift solutions, and the promotion of sustainable credentials will help to differentiate and hold margin. Staff training programs will equip staff with the confidence to sell and to upsell our individual brands. As consumers reflect on consumption and a different way of living, makers should not hesitate to develop alternative sources of income, including classes, workshops, and studio experiences. They are retailing too. Margin and cash flow will be the oxygen of recovery. Makers selling to third-party retailers should definitely consider wholesale strategy meetings to improve their professional standing and partnerships with those retailers. The formula is relatively simple. Retailers are offered 2 6-monthly strategy meetings or business reviews each year. These meetings include a report on the store's sales performance versus the brand's overall market performance. Is it up 10% or down 3%? There are rewards if the store is equal to or better than the market performance. Rewards like access to limited editions, exclusive designs or colorways, gifts with purchase on a when it's gone basis, meet the maker events, and listings as a top stockist on our websites and so on. And then there are supports where a store falls below the market performance, extra staff training, again, limited editions, gifts with purchase, meet the maker events, and so on. During the strategy meetings, there's also the introduction of new collections, all with minimum order requirements, of course. And importantly, a negotiation of window displays and hotspot allocations in return for the supports we as makers are offering. This approach pitches a designer or maker as a professional operator in line with the best and provides the basis for developing a worthwhile partnership with a retailer. And remember this, a maker or designer who is treated as an equal by a retailer has found a true partner. But where do we find and select these retail partners? We find them at trade fairs like Showcase, by reading magazines and newspapers and even checking our competitors' websites. We find them on Google. We find them by getting out more if we could. And we check their credentials and suitability by using new account application forms that ask about location, that ask about years in business, that ask about brands and price points stocked, and that look for trade references. Some of us will also be concerned as to how we get paid. And this is where terms and conditions come in. First, we create order forms that list our products on one side. The order form must be signed and dated by the buyer in question, in accordance with the terms and conditions overleaf. These terms and conditions include credit terms, whether invoices are pro forma, whether deposits are required, and when balances become due. They include cancellation terms, meaning the time limit for cancellation after an order is placed. They include rules around breakages and shortages, meaning the time limit for reporting them. And assignment of title, meaning when the ownership passes from vendor to buyer, usually on completion of payment. And finally, they include a note about jurisdiction, meaning the legal jurisdiction to apply in cases of dispute, usually the Irish courts. A countersigned copy is given to the buyer and the original is retained. We now have a contract. I hope that everyone accepts one of the key lessons of the current restrictions is the importance of a website. Developing a consumer-focused site means developing competitive and engaging content and a worthwhile online experience that includes simple and intuitive navigation, seductive imagery, added value through online exclusives and limited editions, advice and demonstrations, adding up to an online experience where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Let's take a look, just a quick look, at some special imagery. Bear with me while I try and get this slide to move forward. We're having a problem here with that. There we are. Thoughtful styling, engaging lifestyle, high-octane photography, different ways to wear a piece, drama and easy elegance, a product that is unmistakably handmade, a bold statement, bog oak jewelry, and a caption that states, "This jewelry is 5,600 years old." So far, we hardly touched on social media. And of course, it plays an important role in attracting customers. Remember, a business account is not a personal account. Professional social media accounts seek respect, not attention. They're true to brand values. They drive traffic to the point of sale. And remember, visual channels like Instagram have a natural advantage. After all, a picture paints 1,000 words. Sometimes memory can be curiously selective, and talking about new media and online channels and the like reminds me of an ad from the web-based film rental company Mubi. It reads, "No algorithm has ever cried during a movie or laughed or been inspired to change its life. No algorithm has ever watched a film with another algorithm and kissed. No algorithm has ever put a film poster on its bedroom wall or thought about a scene over and over. No algorithm has ever watched a single movie ever. We handpick every single film we show." That ad reminds me of an important issue. People matter. It is one of the cardinal rules of retailing. People matter. People matter on both sides of the counter. Let me wrap up with some wise counsel now First, from Patrick Thomas, former chief executive of Hermes. We want to be profitable, but profit is not the driving force, it is the reward. Followed by advice from Bernard Arnault, chairman of LVMH. Profit is a consequence of what we do well. I have 3 lines of my own to add for designers, makers, and retailers the world over. The customer is the focus. Innovation is the enabler. Profit is the reward. And finally, some encouragement for the times that are in it. From Veronique Nishanian, artistic director of Hermes Men's Universe. What is luxury today? It is to be deeply honest in what you're doing. To be deeply honest in what you're doing. A resonant description of many Irish designers and makers I'm privileged to work with. There's cause to be optimistic. We'll be announcing special peer-to-peer advice series shortly. Brian will give you more details in due course. So for now, thank you. It's time for some questions. Over to Brian.
Hello, everybody. That was a brilliant presentation, Eddie. Thanks very much. Just before we get to the questions, just Mary, I think Mary, you might be able to compile the list and we can just go through. There's a number here
Okay.
from on the questions page and also on the chat line. So maybe we might just go through those questions, Mary, if you want to call them out to Eddie.
Okay, Eddie, if you had a handmade product to sell, low volume and high quality, what would you do today in order to connect with a new customer?
I would tell them the story behind it, first and foremost. I would not talk to them about price. I would talk to them about inspiration, concept, technique. I would talk to them about the crafts of ages that went into developing it. I would make sure that it is displayed in the manner it deserves, and I would reflect its value in a decent price.
Okay. The next question then from Miriam Cushion, she has asked, knowing your worth, is now the time to increase margin/pricing?
Well, if you are underselling yourself, it is, but we are in difficult times. However, we need to think a bit like customers. I have no doubt that when the next weeks or months come to an end, people will want to go out again. They'll want to treat themselves again, just like they did in the last recession. The restaurants will do a roaring trade again. And people will want to catch up on the gifts they didn't give through this very difficult period. So I think we need to be careful that we are fair to ourselves, that we make a profit and enough to survive. And I also think, though, that we need to justify our prices. And we do that by, how I've already said, telling the stories, training the staff, working with partner retailers. That's how we be true to our worth.
Okay. The next question then from Kay Ling, she's asking, do you think we should hold back some of SS20 for SS21, some of our spring-summer stock?
Well, we probably won't have much option the way things are going because a lot of the sites are shutting down. That's not to say that we shouldn't continue to carefully try to stimulate sales. I think we need to be careful that we don't continue making stocks that we're going to have on our hands. If we can think in trans-seasonal terms, for some people in homewares, that's easier than for people in fashion, maybe. Or perhaps it's the other way around. Maybe people in fashion just need to stop making for the wrong season right now. There is no doubt about it that when the stores reopen, they will be full of stock. There's a lot of talk about people cancelling orders. The orders were delivered in many cases. The stores are full. It's been a bad spring. The weather wasn't with us. Spring is only starting now. The summer season is going to pass without an opportunity for us to sell. So I would carefully manage stock for now, and I would convert it where possible into a trans-seasonal proposition.
Okay, next we have Emily Jean O'Byrne is asking, hi Eddie, I am offering complimentary online hat styling. I have an area on my website to make an appointment. Would you have any recommended ways to market this?
Well, you use all the channels at your disposal. I think, Emily Jean, how are you? It's nice to hear from you. Yours is a very visual product. In fact, most makers have very visual products, and we should be using Instagram in particular to drive people to our websites. You can contact all of your customers on your database, tell them you're still alive, tell them you're still looking forward to meeting them again, tell them about what you offer, maybe post some images from your archive and have that discourse with them in a very soft and gentle way to entice them back. Because I know that Emily Jean specializes a lot in special occasions, including weddings. So a lot of her customers have great memories of making her products. That's true for a lot of other people. So remind them of that, because that too is adding value to the new products and the new services you offer.
Okay. Then Louise O'Dwyer is asking, what would you say is the best way to approach a new retailer?
You know, right now, they probably need us as much as we need them. So confidently, I think if you suggest a partnership, if you approach them on the basis that in the current climate, we're all trying to help each other, and that it may take a little while for supply lines to be reopened after the current crisis is over, and that you are available to provide certain types of product, and you include some little images. Now, when you're including images in an email in particular, I always suggest you paste it into the body of the email so they see it as soon as they open the mail. It's not in an attachment that they've got to go to the trouble of opening, because so many buyers are jaded through receiving all of these emails day in, day out. But if they see a visual, an image, that picture that paints 1,000 words, there is a better chance of engagement. And don't be afraid to follow up with a phone call, you know, to ring and say, hi, I sent you an email, I'm just following up, and if you'd like to see some more, I'm not selling anything today, but if you'd like to see some more of my collection, I'd be very happy. I think that sort of approach, that conversational approach, might help us to build new friends and new partnerships.
Okay. Katie Woollett is asking, she's just wondering, would it be possible for you to give a template of an order form / a contract?
Yes. What I can do is I can send that into Brian, and then Brian or some of the team can decide. Like they're very simple bullet points. You know, they're those key ones that simply say things like 30% deposit is required, final payment before delivery of order, or pro forma invoice will be issued. Goods will be dispatched on receipt of payment, or goods will be invoiced with payment due from 30 days from date of invoice. So that's how you start. And then you have to address the issue of shortages or breakages, must be notified within 3 working days of delivery. Because otherwise what happens is you don't get paid. And when you go back and you say, I need to get paid now, it's 3 months since I sent it, goes, oh, they were all broken when they arrived in. You know, so you have to cover yourself for issues like that. You also have to cover yourself against the person who carelessly places big orders left, right, and center. And then just as you're about to ship and you send them out a note reminding them they owe you some money, to say, oh no, I'm cancelling that order. Did I not get in touch with you? So you have to say to them that the orders must be cancelled within 7 working days or 3 working days or 5 working days of placement. Otherwise, you're left with stock on hand, and that can be a very difficult situation. That is why in some cases, I really strongly recommend the idea, if you're starting out in business or if you don't have a lot of cash on hand, get a deposit. Because if you get a 30% deposit, that's covering your cost, to be honest. And at least if you're left with the stock, you can always sell it directly or you can sell it to somebody else. And then the final thing really is that, you know, sometimes we'll get international orders and we don't want to be going to New York or South Korea to fight in a court there to get paid. So jurisdiction of the Irish courts. So I'm happy to develop that up and pass it on to Brian and the team and let them get it out to you guys if that's helpful.
Okay. Christina Goldston says, hi, Eddie. And she is asking, most big retailers are discounting online already, and some of them at 50%. So what would your advice be about the percentage to keep in with the competition so early in the season?
Hi, Christina. That is going to be extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. And I think we're better off picking the fights we're going to have. The big retailers will slash and burn. There is no question about that because they want to make room for new stock. Many of them have placed big orders in advance, and many of the bigger retailers have placed orders with companies that simply do not accept cancellation. So we need to pick our fights. And instead of joining the discount frenzy, which means we're giving away our margin, which means we're giving away our profit, which means we're giving away our livelihood, I think we're better going small, building small partnerships. Don't be afraid to do some markets. Don't be afraid to open up a studio experience. Many of these are really worthy, and you will find that being able to talk to customers as well is not just a pleasure, but it's a real indicator as to what direction you might take your products in. For example, I can remember a knitwear designer at Brown Thomas Create in year 2. She took advantage of the store's willingness to allow makers to do Meet the Maker days regularly through the event. She went in every day. And the reason she went in every day was that on her first day on the floor, a customer approached her and said, I want to buy these 2 pieces of yours. I would have bought 4 if you had more sleeves. So don't be afraid to take matters into your own hand for a couple of weeks or months and sell locally and be really clever. Maybe get together with 1 or 2 other makers and go to your local hotel who's had a difficult time, it's been closed for all those months, and say to them, look, we'd like to have a little craft fair here on Sunday. Can you give us a room? And there'll be people coming in and they'll buy a coffee and a drink and they might even buy some lunch. So this is a time to be clever and to think outside the box and to think simply and to get back to that old concept of a marketplace where people met people in a very sociable atmosphere.
Okay, so the next question from David Wilson. Would you recommend paid advertising on Instagram? And if so, how long before it is effective for high value handmade jewellery?
Yes, I've no doubt that in the current climate, being able to stand out in a visual medium, provided you have good photography, will pay some dividends. But it might be good too if you have a database to make direct contact with that database, because that actually doesn't cost you anything. So I would be driving as many people as possible through the use of other social media channels to my points of sale. In other words, to stores that stocked your product or to your website. And I would do that with all the resources available to me. How long will you know whether it's effective? You'll know through your sales very quickly. So if after week 1 or 2 you're not getting any sales, I think that's a very good measure that it's not working. But I'm a great believer in databases, in constantly building databases and seeking permission to contact people in the future. Again, going back and leveraging the emotion of the people you satisfied in the past. They are already signed on customers. It's much easier to keep a new customer and build that relationship and that market than it is to get a new one.
Okay, well, that leads on to Margaret Ryan was asking also, can you advise on how to develop the best distribution channel for online sales? So it's kind of related.
The best distribution channel is your own online shop. That's where you get to express all of your brand principles and values. You're not lost in the noise of Facebook and other channels. The other channels should be used to drive traffic to your website. So I would suggest the website is where you do that. And on your website, you have the opportunity to use beautiful writing, beautiful photography, ease of navigation, and make it an uncluttered, pleasant experience without any distractions.
Okay. And Rachel Swan is asking, hi Eddie, any more advice on how to continue the studio experience online? Any good website examples out there?
Hello, Rachel. Well, there are a couple of aspects to the studio experience online, and some of it does transfer very well. A little Vimeo of your work, of you making, of you even telling the story, a well-edited story of a concept of a particular piece, how it started, where you got the inspiration, the piece of art, the book, the little piece of material, something tactile that inspired it, and you tell that story, you personally. People love meeting the maker, and they can again get that undivided attention of yours online and you of them. So telling that story online in a little Vimeo, taking them through the making process. I mean, they're just fascinated to see, sometimes when they walk into the jewelry shops that have the making benches there, to see how scruffy and dirty it is as a starting point. And then this beautiful piece, this beautiful work comes out at the other end. I think people are fascinated by that. And that's why I deliberately used the Hermes catalogue with the girl with the dirty face on the front of it and the dirty apron and the leatherworking tools. You know, Hermes didn't do that because it was the wrong thing to do. They constantly refer to their craftsmanship. So that's a thing we can do online. And we can actually do it there with undivided attention, even better than we can do it in a shop, because in a shop, there's an announcement being made, there's a distraction, there's a small child pulling at your arm or whatever. So I think telling our story online is one way to enhance the experience. Showing around the studio, inviting people to come to the studio. And in that invitation, maybe having a little tray set up that you're almost inviting them to tea. I had the pleasure of visiting Joseph Walsh's studio some time back. And, you know, he took us into this little thatched cottage on the edge of his premises, and he gave us a glass and some eats there. You know, and here I am telling you nearly 2 years later about it. So be as personable as you can. Like that idea of emotion attracting people, of we storing memories, you know, that's what we buy, not cameras. That we buy health and wellness, not vitamins. We have to play with that a little bit. So bring all the emotion you can to your studio, personalize it in that little online experience for customers.
Yeah, so I think that relates to Emma Jane Champley asked, have you tips for those of us making one-off pieces and selling direct, no wholesale?
Yes, you are worth more than anybody else in a certain way. You are one-off, you are exclusive, you are made for me. You are listening to my story and converting it and feeding it back to me in a very special piece. And it comes to leveraging that emotion, that exclusivity. Exclusivity is important. It's one of, it's a limited edition, it's a special. And you can encourage people then to start collecting the suite of products. And when I talked about the power of 3, it can be the power of 4 or 5 or 6. And Emma Jane is a jeweler, and so she has a special opportunity here to make a special piece. And then to say, you know, maybe for next anniversary or next birthday or the next gift you're giving, I can make another special piece to go with it. I can make a bracelet to go with the pendant, or some earrings to go with the ring, or whatever.
Okay, Lindsay de Burka is asking any tips or advice on supporting and maintaining existing relationships with retailers?
Lindsay, how are you? I hope you're well. Yes, keep in touch. I've seen several retailers write out this week, you know, the more personable ones, to write out and apologize to their maker, their suppliers and to their customers, and to say, hope you're all well. and we'll get over this and we'll be back soon. Keep in touch with them. Let them know you're there. Tell them things you're working on. You know, they're stuck right now too. They don't know where to go either, you know. So there's some value in this togetherness, and I think it might bring some retailers and some makers together in real relationships. I know Lindsay has developed some special relationships the last year or so with some retailers, and I think they'd love to hear from her and to hear that she's still around and to hear what she's doing. And Lindsay, like all our makers, great stories to tell, you know, and sometimes you guys don't realize how enthralling those stories are and how much we all want to hear them. You know, I can remember Lindsay telling me about her inspiration on the tiny piers along the Wild Atlantic Way, the way ropes were just folded, or that's the wrong word I'm using, but you know what I mean, the way they're sort of wrapped around together, and the inspiration she got there. And it just changed my whole perception of her jewelry. You know, she makes very beautiful jewelry, but this added another dimension. So stay in touch with your retailers.
Okay. So Margaret Ryan is asking, is there a good strategy for negotiating with delivery companies and for covering loss or damage?
Oh, they all have their own terms and conditions. I think the best strategy is to shop around, to talk to other makers, and to see who is really providing the most considerate and personable service. You know, we've all heard the horror stories, but we've all heard some good stories too. And, you know, they too are hurting during this crisis. So at the end of it, this is a good time to be talking to them and make contact with them even in the quiet time now and say, look, I'm looking around. I'm looking for a reliable delivery company. I'm a small company. I want to see what you can offer me, and put some time in now over the next couple of weeks to do that.
Okay. Then we have an anonymous attendee asking, if you retail other products aside from your own brand and your own products, should you have a separate social media website to avoid having your own brand lost among products you just retail? Example, call one your name plus studio, or would this just cause confusion and visitors finding the wrong site?
Well, if you're a shop, then the whole should be greater than the sum of the parts. So the suggestion would be that you would have one, you think like a customer. I don't want to have to go to two sites. I want to go and see the product line in its entirety in one easy journey. And you know, we don't use that power. We're all customers. We don't use that power to think like customers often enough. So if you're a retail outlet, then what you need to do is let the dog see the rabbit, as an old farmer friend of mine says. Let the customer have quick and easy access to what you do. And one part of your retail store will support the other. Then within that, you can, of course, highlight your own exclusive collection. And that collection, if you wish, can have a separate site and can act, if it has other retail stockists, and can act as a support channel listing those other retail stockists, as well as telling the brand story in its own right. But I think it would be a serious mistake to exclude your own brand from your retail offer.
Okay, I think that's, oh wait, now there's one more here. Hi Eddie, from Yvonne Kelly. Do you recommend sending out customer surveys to get vital feedback from them if you don't have a retail premises?
Yes, but again, we need to think like customers, and how would we like that to be done? And I know Yvonne makes really quirky jewelry and really interesting jewelry, and quite the talking point it is too. So when she sends out a piece, she might ask people why they selected that design. Are there other quirky things they'd like to see in her collection? That type of a little survey where customers might enjoy responding and feel almost like they're invited to be part of the artistry and the making and the designing of future collections. And that might bring them back to the site again to see, did Yvonne take the advice? But I'm not sure that sending out long surveys is a good idea. I personally, as a consumer, hate them. You know, I hate those anonymous ones when you check out of a hotel, you've been in it overnight for one night on business, and the next day you get a 15-minute survey, you know, about whether you enjoyed your your experience there. And it destroys the whole experience, you know. Or the worst ones of all are the survey that said, let's say they'll take 30 seconds and they actually take an hour and a half. And I'm only slightly exaggerating to make the point. But I think something that's focused on the customer's enjoyment and their response to the product, and other ideas and other things they'd like to see, that could be fun. And maybe even saying, you know, every month the best respondent, the funniest response, the most useful response might win a little prize. That might be a nice idea. Or might get a voucher for towards a future purchase. That brings them back, doesn't it?
Okay. Anne Harrington-Rees would just like to say thank you for this afternoon. I've been doing local markets and selling directly for over a year. I get wonderful feedback and suggestions from shoppers, leading me to develop new products. And she just said thank you. And Hilary Morley says it was terrific. Many thanks. So I don't know.
Hi, Hilary.
Great. Well, Eddie, thank you so much. And Mary, thanks for that. And everybody for coming on the call. It was great. A great session, great learning. And there's so many brilliant questions. We're capturing all that. And obviously this session will be live, or not, sorry, live, will be recorded and online and available for friends who maybe didn't get to see the session. They'll be able to catch up with it from tomorrow, I think, Mary.
Yeah.
So just to say, there's one other thing we're going to announce today, and Eddie alluded to it there before the Q&A, and that is that as well as this session, webinar session that we're organizing with professional mentors, etc., there's also now we're going to be launching a webinar series for makers. So we're going to call it Mastercraft, and basically it's going to be an opportunity for makers who have a particular skill or a particular learning in an area that they want to share with other makers, that they'll be able to do on this channel. And that's going to be launched in the next day or so. We'll be making a selection then. We'll be inviting applications, and then there'll be obviously some form of selection process, and then we'll sort of plan the next 3 to 4 weeks of that to see how it goes. But we'll be hopeful that we'll try and do 3 a week of makers who've got very interesting learnings that they've had and they'd love to share. So if you want to spread the word, we'll be announcing it anyway and be sending out a press release and everything on it for everyone. So just to let you know. So on that note, thanks a million again, Eddie, for that. It was a great session, and thanks everybody for attending. And I think we can call it a day.
There's loads of comments coming in there, Eddie, saying that it was very informative, very inspiring session and really helpful. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you to everybody for putting by the time today to join us. And I really genuinely want to say a heartfelt thanks to Brian and yourself, Mary, and all the team, not only for this seminar or this webinar series, but for all of the quiet, silent work that's going on in the background at DCCI. From early morning every day till late in the evening. It is absolutely superb, the effort that the team is making and the good they're doing to ensure that the makers get through this very difficult period in the best way we can. So let's all keep working together, and well done everybody. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Bye. Bye everybody. Bye-bye.